Welcome, welcome. Okay, cool. While we wait for everyone to join, I'll do a quick intro. So, joined by Logan, who many of you have seen in SitRep posts we did 2 weeks ago. It's probably one of our most popular posts. I won't take offense to that, Logan. But extremely cool story from July last year. So, a little bit less than a year from now. Uh, while as a med student, still a med student, decided that you were going to lean into your business, and then you've grown pretty crazy since then. So we're going to talk about that today. And we'll provide all the links after the fact. The goal, if you do sign in today, this should be open Q&A. If we get people who are decided to join us live, just pop questions in the chat. Cool. Hey, Logan, how are
Cool.
you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Um, it is actually my wedding anniversary today, so thank you for celebrating it with me. Yeah.
Oh, happy wedding anniversary. And also,
Of course. The
yeah.
obligatory, no, it's awesome. So we will
Well, plus we
be
have to give a shout out to
just
your kids though, right? So, because
yes.
they were like, yeah, your podcasts are boring. I'm like, no, they're not boring. Not if I'm here. So,
I know. It's like I was figuring out how to get it synced on Spotify, and then you plug it in and you have CarPlay. So we're going to school in the morning. I have 3 little girls, and the hat pops up as our icon. And they're all about the album art. They're like, gotta see the picture, gotta see the picture. So they see the hat. They're like, the hat, Hoven hat, as you know from the thing. And I was like, guys, I don't think you're gonna like that. But you gotta play, you gotta play it. She clicked. And I think it was Mike and I talking. And yeah, after like 10 seconds, the middle child, who always keeps me on my toes, is like, this is really boring.
oh,
I know. But you know, they're not ready for entrepreneurship, I guess,
it's
at some point.
okay. It took me a while to buy into it, but here I am, and I'm like, hey, look, I could do this. So,
Yeah.
if
All
I
right.
could
So
do it,
let's go
anybody could
back.
do it.
How, how did you get started in, so you're a med student. When did you become an instructor? So let's go pre Heartbeat Heroes. Like when did you become an instructor?
Sure, yeah. So let's just go back to the bare bones beginning, right? So after I graduated EMT school, I had finished high school as a dual enrollment student doing EMT. And our
Okay.
instructors were like, hey, look, we need, because I had finished advanced EMT school. They're like, hey, look, we just need some skills instructors, It's, nice, easy money while you're in college during the summers or whatever, and that's fine. So I did that, and I was a lab preceptor for a while, and I would do clinical shifts in the ER with the students, right? And I really enjoyed that. I had some prior experience there as well. Um, and then fast forward a little bit during medical school, actually, um, I was kind of headhunted right by an organization that needed here around town. It was for profit, right? And they needed an instructor, right? So I quickly became an AHA instructor. They provided all my instructor certifications, and essentially, because
Mhm.
I was the only one that was, kind of reliable and up to it, I pretty much became the training site administrator, right? So, and that was in 2021, I think. Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah. And then
And
so after that, I started my business, right? After I think it was 2023 is when we got the articles of incorporation.
and did that business did you pull customers from that business when you were getting started, or what was the transition from, like, when did you figure out you wanted to make a business out of it?
Yeah, I mean, I had already developed a customer base, but then I had also really started to develop a lot of relationships with my customers that I did have because they were they
Yep.
knew me. I was the face of the business, right? It was not the business itself, right?
Right.
And so yeah, I had people that came back to me, and I was like no, I don't want to steal business from the other organization or anything like that, or do anything that might get me in legal trouble, but. They were like, no, we like you. We don't care about the business. We care about you and your
Mhm.
beautiful personality, I assume. I'll just say that, right?
Mm.
So,
Okay. We'll leave it up to interpretation.
sure.
Um, okay, so 2021 this would have been, and you're a 4th year now. So you were going into med school at the time?
Yeah, yeah. I was actually a first year, and it was a couple of months in, and they were like, "Hey, I just finished the brutal anatomy," and I was like, "Thank God that's over." Um, and they were like I was tired of coming home smelling like a carcass, let's just say that much.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, so,
Not good for the brand.
no, no, not really. So, but after that, right, I had this, they had reached out to me, right, during first year of med school, so
Okay. So now, if we're going to fast forward through the first 3 years of med school, what was the business like? So
oh, the
those
first 3
3 years,
years
because it
of
seems pretty flat, right?
yeah, yeah, it was pretty flat, right? And at that time, I was still with the other company, so I was going and teaching them, and I was actually the program director for their online hybrid EMS program, right? So I was
Okay.
coordinating clinicals, I was coordinating, grading, I mean, it was just pretty much me, and then doing the trainings on the weekends because it was a hybrid program, and then also
Yep.
managing the AHA part of it for the company. And just instructor schedules and things like that, and training new people, and that's where they were like, we want you to be faculty, right? Teach the instructor course because we really didn't have anybody here in the area, so it was like, yeah, sure, whatever. um yeah, but then fast forward, right, the business for me after that was okay, I'm just teaching one or two here and there, right, on the weekends or something. you know um wasn't outside of anybody's basement or anything, wasn't that egregious, but it was still, I was teaching it as best I could. um
Did you have any idea when you were in med school what you wanted to do with the business at all? Or was it like, a lot of, uh, I think a lot of instructors also start by teaching as this is
Sure.
like found money that they're doing on the side. So what was your headspace for those 3 years that you were obviously still, you chose to spend some time teaching.
Sure.
Um, it sounds like it was a little bit more passive. Is that fair?
Oh, yeah, it was definitely passive because I mean, my primary responsibilities were the EMT program, right? And then my
Yep.
secondary responsibilities were, like the AHA courses and whatnot. Yeah, and I think for me, it's a great question. I Yeah, it was just passive income, like, we're just kind of doing this and with, whatever equipment that we had or whatever we can procure and just I had a couple of consistent, regular, I think, customers, just so to say, like, friends. They're like,
Yep.
"Hey, like, we wanna take, ACLS PALS through you instead of, having to go through our typical, education department, which can never schedule me, or it's not AHA, it's Red Cross, and if I have to do this, I'd rather just do it once and just pay for it." And then I was like,
Yep.
"Hmm, that's interesting." Like, they're actually saving money by coming to me, doing it this way than if they were to go somewhere else. And that was my first inclination of, maybe people would rather just take one day off and pay me and then get it all done, right? Or 2 days, or for whatever the courses were.
Yep.
Than have to do it multiple times, right? Different agencies or whatever. So yeah, so that's kind of how it worked.
That makes sense. So fast forward to summer of last year, you were kind of put in a spot where you kind of had to make a decision what you wanted the business to be. Walk me through how that happened.
Yeah, so I was with the training center, right? We won't name names or anything, but with that training center, right? Like we had to use Hoven, right? And even if we were just using it for the e-cards and stuff like that for submissions, we didn't necessarily have to buy into it, right? And it was like a lot of other instructors. Sorry, I'm getting emails as well at the same time. Can't tell I'm a little ADHD, so definitely emergency medicine is what I'll be matching into if you can't tell. So.
Yeah, you're fine.
Um,
Just give me as many gurneys as possible.
yeah, as many gurneys, and I'll run as many lab tests as I can. Um, yeah, so, wait, what was the question? Yeah, so how did I get into Hovind? Okay, yeah.
Walk me, yeah. So at some point, you're like, okay. So my impression, as I'm hearing the story from you, right?
Yep,
You're you kind of get recruited into it. You're a bit of a natural. You're still committed to it. You're doing it throughout med school. It's just already
yeah,
pretty busy, and you're doing
yeah,
this on the side.
yeah,
Um, a bit more passive with the business. Then, as you're saying, right, TC comes in. Hey, we are now going to start mandating everyone use, in this case, Hoven.
yeah.
Everyone's going to have to use software, and you're kind of faced with the decision. All right, am I going to use the handed out version, or am I going to pay and go to the upgrade version?
Yeah, that
There,
that's
and we'll
that
pick it
is
up from there.
exactly that's exactly what it was, right? And then so they were also offering some discounts, right, to kind of push us and encourage us to do that as well. So I was like, well, look, if I'm teaching the instructor courses as well, and I have a base for those people
Yep.
to buy the instructor courses and to buy the equipment as instructors, right? I was like, well, this is an opportunity to capitalize on that really well. And so yeah, that's when I got it, right? And I was like, I kind of started to develop a website, and it was kind of a slow rolling process. But then, once I and like you like to say, like as soon as I leaned into it, right? As soon as I bought like the premium version and I had like a real infrastructure, I was like, okay, like I expected that this is going to work for me, and now it's going to work for me, right? Like I'm going to put it to use. And so we look like a
When
real
you were
business.
looking at it though, like how you were still fairly small, right?
Oh
When you're
yeah,
talked about when
still.
we were talking, it's like 20 students. So you made a call to, how much relative to what you were about to spend, how much of an investment was it compared to how much you had been spending on the business before?
I would say it was kinda hefty, actually. I was kinda taking a leap of faith, and I was like, "Well, I mean, I say, like, $1,000 or whatever, however much it was, I can't remember because I ended up buying, like, a couple different things. Um,
Right.
I knew I could probably make that back, right? And so I was like, "Okay, so I'm willing to jump in and take a little leap of faith there, right, with something that will once I have a couple students, it'll naturally, hopefully, just pay itself back, and then everything after that's just profit."
Prior to that, the forcing moment, because it came out of the blue for you, had you thought
Mhm.
about what you wanted to do with the business before, or was it always just something that was just kind of hanging around while you were focused on med school?
No, no, it was definitely, just kinda in the back of my mind. I think I looked at a couple of your competitors, right? And just like, okay, like, I'm getting a few more students now that I kinda wanna mentally handle, right? Coordinating, like, these one-on-one or 3-to-1 sessions or whatever, um, more than I'd wanted to handle, right? So I was like, "Okay, so maybe I can use, Enrollware, or maybe I can use this other one," or whatever they are. Um,
Yep.
and, excuse me, yeah, so I looked into it, but then I tried it and I was like, "Man, these things are just it's just awful." Right? I didn't like them. They were clunky. They were used for they were like for like bigger organizations, and so I was just like, I just don't have the time or patience. I don't. And I was like, so I was kind of done with it. I was like, well, we'll just stay with what we're at, right? And if I have students that walk away, I have students that walk away, as sad as that is. But I was like, I was doing fine right now, right? And that was also the point at which I had also kind of gotten an office space because I was like, hey, look, how cool would it be, to be a med student, right? And have office space up here in the tower. We call it the tower, right? I'm on the ninth and 10th
Okay.
floor. Yeah. And I was like, okay, so, it's nice to have office space to have students to actually come to your location and address and, you know,
So it sounds like almost at that point in time, you're like, okay, I'm running this organically. It's bubbling over a little bit, but still
yeah,
say you're under like 30, 40 students a month.
definitely.
And you looked into doing something else, but you're almost in this place where you're like, okay, I don't know that the things are necessarily out there for me to scale the way that I want to. And then comes along and now is your opportunity. You decide to go paid. So walk
Yep.
me through the couple of months that happened. Because even when we were telling your story in the blog post, I think it took you like a couple of months. I imagine a lot of stuff was happening as you were leaning
Sure.
into it for things to really start to ramp. But if you were to tell this like a movie montage, what were sort of the key things that started to happen from the moment you're like, okay, I'm going in, I'm buying a license, and now I'm actually going to focus on trying to make something happen or not make something happen?
Yeah, so it was a multitude of things, right? It wasn't just Hovind, sure. Even though, for the podcast sake, we'll say it was mostly Hovind.
No, it's not. No, we are a supporting actor at best.
Yeah,
This is your story, so
yeah, so after that, right, I think because I had to get through some administrative hurdles, right? Because we had just gotten well, no, we had already been licensed as a business and whatnot. We had to go, the insurance and all those kind of other stuff, and I was like, "Okay, whatever." Um And that's when I kinda noticed, I was like, "Dang, this is really getting real. This is getting heated." And, when we wanted to take out, like, a different when we signed up for an additional office space, right?
Mhm.
I was like, "Okay, so now I gotta make that work for me," right? So I'm gonna be doing this every single week now. Like, every Saturday, I'm up here teaching BLS classes, ACLS and
So
PALS.
you looked over the cliff there for a sec because you signed up for software, and now I'm
Yeah.
remembering too. You signed up for an annual plan with us.
Mhm,
You got an office space.
mhm.
I'm gonna say at the time, I don't know that you weren't backfilling volume at that point. You were kind of pushing yourself
Yeah.
downhill.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get the office space.
Yeah, I got the office space, and that's when I was like, we went hard and heavy. I was posting every day to, like, Hoven. I was posting every day to, our Google Business profile, right? Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Um, and what else did I mean, like, I did a lot of things, right? Because around October is like, "All right, now we're talking,"
Yep,
right?
yep.
And
October. Yep.
so yeah, and so that's when things really started to pick up, and then when I started getting more instructor students because it's like, wow, now you have, this licensed and insured business in New Orleans in the heart of the city, right? Literally, our office is across the street from the Superdome.
Yep.
Could not be any easier there, right? And I don't have to drive out to these other places that might or might not have instructors or whatever. And so people started to notice, and that's when it ramped up, right? And then some of my instructors from the past life came back and they were like, like, hey, we need our renewals, and I'm like, well, I'm not with that other TC anymore. I'm sorry, I can't do it. They're like, oh, well, can we just come back to you? So
Yep.
then it's like, so now I'm finally getting all the credit for what I was doing in the first place, right? So, um,
When you when did you outside of the volume started to coming in? Think you started talking about getting uh sort of a more professional experience with even businesses in the area. When did you
mhm.
feel like you had passed like that? Was there a moment where you felt like you had hit like another notch?
Yeah, right around January, right? January is always a research season for whatever reason for a lot of folks. So we
Okay.
amped it up a little bit, and then February I felt like is when I just fell over the cliff of like, okay, like I'm doing great now. Um,
What happened in January?
So January, like we had a lot of renewals and stuff like that, but then after that, we just had so many instructor candidates come to us, right, that were looking for, and we started getting a lot of calls about like new legislation that had been enacted for a lot of people, and they're like, "We need this course, and we can't find anywhere to take it from, actually." Or the
Yeah.
the people that do have it don't have the professional experience that you do, right? Like they don't have websites that look legitimate. Their locations are, the Hampton Inn, right? Or wherever. It's literally running it out of
Yep.
somebody's basement. So, and it was kind of
Did
kind
you
of
I can't
sketchy, right?
recall. Did you make a website change when you switched over, or did you just plug us into the existing website? I feel like you made it
Oh no,
you
I
updated the
I
website.
I kind of updated it a little bit, right? But I did plug you
Right.
into what I already had. So,
Okay.
yeah, and then I started doing
So,
search engine optimization, which really helped as well. So,
yeah. What were you posting to your Google business page?
oh god, I'd have to go back and look, but it's a lot of like, um, cute AI artwork, I will say that, or just like some images or stuff like, and I still do this regularly, right? But one thing was um a happy Mother's Day, right? So it's stuff that's not necessarily like directly related to like everything CPR, right? It's kind of just like, hey, just put your logo on something and get out there, right? So
So is it fair to say, kind of maybe I always kind of get my story or the story within the story. Going back prior to this push, you're running your business, you're interested, it's bringing in some cash. You think you might want to make something of it. You did some research, didn't really find anything that was like ready to push you over the edge.
mhm.
And then you kind of get forced into a situation where you have to make a choice.
Yeah.
And then you kind of like what I'm hearing, it's not just you went with us, you started committing to, okay, that was a decision of like, let me be real with myself. Am I just going to run this as a side hustle and I'm going to take the free path? My TC's asking me to send in paperwork. I'll follow the rules, but I'm not really leaning in. You decide I'm going to lean in and you start to dial up the activity. I mean, even though you're saying with Google Business Page, you're posting memes and AI generated stuff. activity is activity and the consistency build on itself compared to, like a lot of websites you go out and see in space, they're just stale. Some of them still have COVID warnings, you know. Um, Not to say you shouldn't have policies about communicable diseases, but just in general,
Sure,
like,
sure.
you know, people can tell, are you updating your business? And algorithms look to see if you're updating and paying attention to your business. And so if we go from that July to October timeframe, that was, yeah, about like the 90-day mark that most people say as an adage is like start to commit to the activity and not much is going to happen in the beginning. And then all of a sudden things start to pile on when you hit this critical mass of what you were posting. Um, when did you get, we talk about and we talked about when we were doing the sit rep post, you started to see businesses treat you differently.
Yeah.
A lot of the times we talk in this on sit rep, we've had other guests talk about B2B relationships kind of being that next thing. What were some of the changes you noticed for how businesses were interacting with you or landing those sorts of accounts?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's kinda like they just weren't interacting with me in the first place, and now they actually are interacting with me, right?
You're like, well, it's pretty easy, John. I went from
Yeah.
last call to, uh,
Be being one of the
people
first.
were paying attention. Yeah,
Yeah,
first.
literally. Yeah, I mean, and these are, like, reputable businesses, right? Like, these are not I mean, any business, I suppose, is good business, right? But, yeah, I mean, I don't wanna call out, like, your client list or anything like that, but reputable
No, no.
EMS agencies get their cards from us. Hospitals now get their cards from us, right? And then, because their instructors work with us, and then, I'm trying to think of who else. Government agencies, right, without being direct about it, right? But they
Yep.
started, reaching out. So school systems. So
So in July, none of those. January, February, one at least of each of those categories that you just mentioned.
mhm.
In 4 to 5 months, again, should we throw the disclaimer? Results are not typical. Um,
Yeah,
but but seriously, I'm speaking a little bit more on this one than normal, probably because it's hitting some strings for me. I talk to a lot of providers, and so many times I hear the thing, "Oh, this is just a side hustle for me. This is one of many things that I do," which is okay.
sure.
Um, the question I always ask, or wonder if those people have asked themselves, is that being scared of commitment you've tried and can't grow, or it generally is what you want it to be, a side hustle? Because almost all of the competition around you is treating it as a side hustle.
Right. Yeah. And that one is it's not the bane of my existence, but they are my competitors, right? In a way, right? Um and so I it's always interesting to see, everybody else that's doing their business and like where you find them. Like I can take BLS, American Heart Association BLS with somebody down the road at their apartment, right? And it's probably 20 minutes. Um,
Yep.
and so that's where I run into a bit of the issues. And so that's why my B2B contracts are my friends, right? They pay my bills, right? I don't mind teaching the other classes too, of course, 100%. Business is business, but yeah. And
Were you getting your B2B contracts from people that were showing up to your open enrollment classes and you were converting them? Or are you getting them from like direct outreach? You have a more professional experience. Like, what was the lever you think?
Yeah, I think it was actually a bit both, right? Because I did have some organizations that reached out, a bunch of clinics right around here. Like they were like, we were just Googling, right? And you were like, she was like, yeah, you happen to be one of the first two or three that popped up on Google. So that's a plug for you. That's why you should be doing search engine optimization, number one.
Yep.
And then number two, it was funny because I had this one guy, he came in for a heart saver class, and he was like, "Man, my wife is gonna kill me. I'm gonna be home so late," And he was a busy professional, and he was like, "I just gotta have my CPR certification." And his wife ended up being, she was like, "Why were you?" She ended up calling. She's like, "Where are you? Why are you so late?" And he was like, "I'm getting my CPR class or my CPR certification." ends up that her organization, business, government entity ends up being one of my biggest clients. So, um, yeah, over
So
200.
you didn't fold to the social pressure of give me the
Yeah,
card quick. And it
yeah,
turns out that being legitimate turned into a big customer.
yeah, over 200. Well, I think between her and the other organization, because it's like part of her, it's like close to 300 students, um, every 2 years, right? So,
Mhm. So recapping numbers, you went sub 30 per month, 0 business accounts. We're now in the north of 100, 150 each of those
mhm.
business accounts. Reputable. You've got how many instructors were you now up to? Just give rough numbers because you have instructors that are renewing and returning to you. So you've gone to legitimate business now, right?
Yeah, yeah. How many instructors do I have underneath me? Not my W-2
Yep.
employees, which is wild. If you would have ever said, "Oh, you gotta have, workers' comp insurance because you now have W-2 employees," I'd have been like, "What the," because I'm like, "What?" Trying to navigate that, I was
Well,
like,
it's
"Oh god."
still a fourth year too.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a ton of free time.
Yeah. But yeah, so, currently, I think I have as instructors that are underneath me, right? I've got, I think because I was looking at the list this morning because I was like, "Oh, crap, I gotta update that."
Yep.
I would say probably 40, 30 to 40.
Okay.
Yeah, some are more active, some are not as active. It's okay. I'm just like, "Hey, just make sure you renew, make sure you teach your 4 classes." But yeah.
I want to talk about you and I were having a conversation about something you discovered around price. And you were actually, and this is going to be an interesting topic because I know I always preach about not competing on price, like finding your customers, get
Sure.
out of the situations where you are competing on price. But there are times where that can put you in a situation where price can be a good lever for you. And I think
Mhm.
recently you said you have lowered prices a bit. Talk about what happened there, if as much as you're willing to share.
Yeah, sure. No, 100%. So, I found with, like, my B2B contracts, right, I really want them to stick with me, right? And so I'm willing to kind of bend over backwards, in a way and make it happen as best I can. So there's that aspect of it. Number one, right? Treating my B2Bs like they're my best friends, right? In a way,
Yep.
because I mean, in New Orleans, like half of this stuff is, I mean, I can get cards anywhere, right? It's not only cards; it's just good business and relationships and friendships. So I probably do more
Mhm.
service industry than a bartender does. um, and so then another thing too is, yeah, I did. I found that when I lowered my prices a little bit, more people were attracted to that because they're like, and I was actually for a lot of people when the season was right, they were looking for the classes. And if I'm offering you the same product that this person is offering you, in theory, even though mine's supposedly like a little bit more premium, right? Because you're coming to our, office and whatnot. They're like, "We would rather go with the lower of the 2." 'Cause some people were like, some people didn't care that they were going to somebody's garage. Some people did, right? And so I found that either way, though, if you lowered your prices a little bit, it just pulled in the market, and they were just really attracted by it. And especially with my
Mhm.
B2B contracts for those they're not really directly a B2B, so to speak, but they are, "Hey, we'll funnel you business if you can just, teach our employees, and we'll just reimburse them." So I have a couple of those B2B contracts, so to speak, but they're not actually a B2B.
They're
Yeah.
sending you students to your open classes.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty
Yep.
much it, yeah. So I do that, and then, we have this thing called Give Null a Day, and as a thank you, right, to one of my clients, I actually gave out 2 free BLS, seats to students or whatever for whenever they need to use it, and I was actually able to use Hoven as a discount coupon for it. Um, so so shout out to Hoven for that, making that
Thanks.
possible. But yeah, no, so like we do stuff like that. So we treat our clients well, and so we get the repeat customers and business. It's good word of mouth, right? They're like, man, like he gave us free CPR or BLS, for our struggling, young people that was the organization that was for. So I'm happy to do that, right? It doesn't take any time out of my pocket because I've got all these other students, right, that are coming to me. So
Yep.
so I'm filling these classes, and that was what was. That was what was amazing. Although I will say I think May's been a bit of a dry spell. Not sure why, but, um,
Hmm.
yeah.
Maybe you certified all of the city of New Orleans, and it's just you're gonna have to move on to conquer the next one.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I teaching PHTLS and, AMLS too, so that's my the next
yeah,
thing, so
you expanded your catalog. When did you start doing that? And you doing any
yeah.
EMT stuff as well?
Yeah, so I started doing that. I, had somebody that I knew that was a, affiliate faculty here, in New Orleans, and I had actually reached out because I wanted to be an instructor for the longest time with NAMIT, and then, a couple of things happened, some bridges burned, it was a little awkward situation with not this person, but another person or whatever, um, and and I just looked because I was like, "I need to get my PHTLS restarted," right? So where can I go? The nearest place was, like, what, close to 60 miles away from here, and I was like, to
Oh God.
publicly openly take the class for free unless you were to go to one of these organizations that offers it once every 6 months for their employees, and they're like, "Yeah, sure, you can open it up to, the public or whatever." And I was like, "What the hell?" Right? I was like, "We need to be doing that. We need to be doing
Yeah.
that." So, yeah, and then so his business got shut down actually, for reasons, and then, so I reached out and I was like, "Hey, I wanna do this," and she was like, "Go for it," the lady at the NAEMT, and so, yeah, now we teach PHTLS, AMLS, and soon EPC as soon as they get my cert for that.
So you built up a base in resuscitation,
Mhm.
common story. Now you're branching out into other places, expand the portfolio. And
Yeah.
bread is buttered by your resuscitation stuff to start, right?
Mhm. Yeah. That was my goal, was to be a one-stop shop for all my EMT paramedics and even doctors, right? I have a good friend who's an ER resident, and he's like, "Yeah, I'd love to teach ATLS." I'm like, "Oh, great. Come on." Gotta go through that process. Maybe not right now, but that's next year, right? So
Yeah. um, I had a good amount of people reply to the sit rep that we posted, saying that the story was inspiring.
oh, glad I
Um,
can inspire
so
people.
pressure's on here for a sec, but doesn't have to be. Uh, if you had somebody who is listening, or when they listen to this, who's in that 5 to 50 students a month, like you were, what is the one decision you would tell them to make? And you can't say buy Hoban. That's not the purpose of the question. Um, what would you say to them?
I think at that point for a lot of the people, you're at a fork in the road, right? What do you want to do? And I think if you really want to lean into it, like we've been discussing, right? If this is something that you genuinely want to do, and if you're already kind of thinking about it, that's usually probably your instinct that you want to do that actually. I would say you don't necessarily have to buy Hoven, right? But for John's sake, yeah, buy Hoven. But I think the big thing for me was buy a brand, buy an image, like make a name for
Yeah.
yourself, right? And I think that has really paid
Mm,
off and made a huge difference, right? So like now for like $200, right? Once I design my little logo or whatever, which is by the way cool, and I have company colors, love that. Once you design that image, right? People will see that image and they'll see you and your customer service, right? And now when I go to conventions, because I had to go to a couple of health fairs, um, or I didn't have to, but I wanted to, right? They're the freebies that we give out to people, right? So now I have cute pins, right? For only $200, right? With my logo on it. And now, I mean, we have branded everything. I mean, I'm practically going to get a branded toilet in my new suite, just because it's so like that's just us, right? Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I have the stress balls, right? I've even got my own official stamp. I got it from Etsy. Best $20 I ever made or ever spent.
I want.
Yeah.
Is the stamp in the office?
The stamp is definitely in the office. Let me pull it out. It's like this yay big thing. Let me stamp it for you so you can kind of see maybe. Yeah. This is it. See if you can kind of see it. Yeah. That's our
Oh,
stamp.
that is cool.
Oh,
That is cool.
yeah. I'm trying to get yeah. All right. Well, whatever. Because it's the camera. It's a high
All
quality
right.
camera's crap.
I like it.
Whatever.
So I love what you said about um, deciding to build a brand. And what clicked for me in that was you decided like an outcome for what you wanted your business to be. And then you backfilled what you would need to have to make that vision of it possible. For you, it's an office space. For you, it's a real presence on the web. You decided to use software that gave you a more professional experience that was modernized. I would also go on the record and say that is like the right way to think about what you should be investing in.
Mhm.
Um, and I had this like image it popped in my head when you said that of like people who are like, you decide to be something else by just choosing to dress and mimic other people as opposed to deciding and then backfilling, and you can see the difference. And that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, and I think one good thing, one piece of advice is like, you see John from Hoven. I'm always gonna see John from Hoven wearing the green baseball cap, right, and his leather jacket, right, in this setting, in this situation. Like, I'm gonna see you. That's when I think of Hoven, that's what I'm gonna see. That's what I'm gonna think of, right? Same thing with like Amazon, right? And I took my inspiration right from these Fortune 500 companies, right? You go, who do you think of when you see Amazon? You see the Amazon symbol, right? You see the Amazon worker in the blue shirt, right? You've
Yep.
got all these people, right? And it's like it's the brand. So when I think of or when I want you to think of Logan and Heartbeat Heroes, I want you to think of us as a company, right? And the end product. So, which is a great experience.
The interesting thing that you talk about too in this story that I want to highlight, because I always like to highlight the things that were not mentioned,
Mhm.
is your growth was organic and local. You didn't, and maybe you did, but this isn't a part of the key part of the story that you mentioned.
Mhm.
You weren't like, oh, I just decided that I was going to start investing a bunch of money in posting classes to paid sites or posting
Yeah.
classes or doing paid advertising, or I finally decided which of the 15 different CPR find class websites I was going to pay a premium service for. There's a story like, sorry, I'm going to take the mic here for a sec.
No, yeah, have it.
The story I
Yeah.
think with that is you decided that you wanted a core part of your business to be them knowing you. And you see a lot of these businesses who have grown and they are not growing because the customers know who they are. They're growing because they're one service provider amongst 100 for people who are shopping for price and location. You decided to grow for people that were going to find your brand and have a relationship with you, and it's stronger.
Mhm.
And that was a very intentional thing. And in a way, you have a much more stable business than the topics that we're seeing on the Facebook groups this week of people who are stressed out competing on price on the different directories. And it's an
Mhm.
easy way to grow to post to those directories, but you don't build the type of relationship that you're talking about when
Right.
the first time that they would meet Logan from a directory is when you show up in the class to teach the thing that they signed up for and then try and build that relationship afterwards.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
I
So where are we
I
going
agree.
from here? You were approached, you're on pace where you could grow into training center status or you could do other things. Where do you think you want to take it from here?
Yeah, whew, I'm sweating. Because I gotta teach a lot in the next couple of, months along with my other instructors. Yeah, so,
And
yeah, so
now
the
you're side hustling as a med student is the
yeah,
official change. Yeah.
yeah, totally a 180-degree switch there, yeah, yeah, I actually had an attending, I was in surgery, and he was, like, in my OB rotation, he's like, "What's that on your card or whatever?" Because I have, like, my ID badge, and behind it has, like, my, um my, like, key card, and I was like, "Oh, that's my business office, like, that's the key to my business office," and he's like, "What? You have a business?" So he's just striking up
Business
conversation.
assistant.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, so but anyway, to answer the question directly, right, so we just signed, a lease. Actually, the ink is still wet, as of, last night, I finalized all the paperwork. We signed a lease for 2,000 square feet upstairs, right, and I am getting a whole suite instead of just 2 offices. Yes, account manager from the AHA actually reached out, and she was like, because we were talking about other things, and she's like, "Have you ever thought about being in, like, a training center?" And I was like, "No, I haven't." She's like, "You probably would be really great at that." And I was like, "Oh, okay, sure. Well, I will take you up on that offer. Challenge accepted." Um, and so, yeah, and then the NAMIT Training Center, we're trying to create actually, and I was gonna ask you this too, John, John from Hoven, um, is if we can do, I'm gonna try to figure this out, but a phlebotomy program as well. for our students in the area to be kind of like a hub because we're going to have the space for it. So,
Yeah.
um,
We have
yeah.
a
So,
number of
I
people on
mean,
the platform doing phlebotomy.
yeah, like, so that's I mean, it's a quick, easy certification, I think, as long as you have the instructor's infrastructure, right, and the legal requirements worked out and a place to do it. So yeah, so we're gonna be doing that as well, diversifying the income, but eventually, maybe I'll be a doctor one day. I mean, my god, I mean, I did go to medical school at some point for a reason, so I should at least finish it.
Yeah, don't make that part of the story because I'm gonna get a phone call from someone if you end up not speaking to the doctor. I don't know who it's gonna be. Maybe
Yeah.
you. That's not in the case study.
Yeah, I had an anesthesiologist actually, she was like, "Oh, you actually," she was like, "This is really good business model you have." She was like, "You probably don't wanna go into medicine." You could probably gonna make more money doing this." And I was like, coming from an anesthesiologist, I was like, "I'm impressed that you said that." She's like, "But yeah, I'll send you
Right.
all the clients and people to come to you." And I was like, "Oh, gladly, easily." So and people love that. People love the fact that I was like a medical student. They're like, "Oh, that's so cool." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, yeah." So, and they keep coming back for that, or whatever. So I also think it helps my ACLS and PALS scenarios because I throw in like
Yes.
this random ACLS scenario. So like you have to do compressions and like this guy is like, stuck between like, a tree and, all this kind of other stuff. And people are like, "What?" And I'm like, "No, this is a real story. It's really happened."
Yeah,
So
it turns out that when Anthony was on, we talked about this too. Turns out that chances are the emergency is just not gonna happen in the conference room where
yeah,
everything's nice and
exactly.
air conditioned, and it never
Yeah.
happens there.
You gotta intubate, like, upside down.
Yeah. Do you think oh man, this is gonna be
The
I hate
answer
to
is
try
yes.
not to get personal on these, but, do you think in the psychology of way you decided to move forward, did you ever have were you fighting, like, a why me thing, or was it just trying to find was it finally just getting the push to be like, "Nope, I'm gonna push myself down the hill."
Yeah, I think I just finally became, like, push myself down the hill, and I'll be honest with you, right? Like, I cannot for the life of me, you know, half-ass anything. Sorry for your listeners to cuss, but I
No, it's
can't.
fine. It's good.
So, yeah, so I really did. I leaned into it and I was like, "You know what? This is gonna be me. This is my brand. This is who I am. Like, this is who I am, right? I am like, this is
Yeah.
me. I eat, breathe, and sleep this. And for good reason, right? Because I'm doing it's more than just I'm making money, right? I feel like there's an actual purpose here. Like we're like if I just choose not to show up to work today, right? Like people with reputable EMS agencies in the area, right? They don't get their cards today. People don't go to work because they don't have their certifications because 'cause they're
Yeah.
required to have them, right? So, I feel
You
like I'm
made
doing a
what you wanted
service.
yeah, and you made what you wanted to have you were intentional, so continuous theme in sit rep, even though it was never ironically intentional from our part, is the stories that keep getting weaved is people are very intentional about the business that they wanted to build. I noticed we didn't talk about you weren't deciding, "Oh, I had to do something because I had competitors or I was competing on price or all this other stuff." You kind of decided what
Yep.
you wanted the business to be and went out and you found your customers by building the product that you wanted to build, and there are always
Yep.
customers. I mean,
Always.
I was thinking I was thinking about it this morning too, because sometimes I just, transparently, I just chuckle at, I shouldn't say chuckle at, but just the sensitivity around fighting over price. And I posted something on Facebook today, so this will date the podcast, but just people talking about like, oh, all customers just care about price. Dude, it turns out in every industry, there is a customer that cares about price. That's not a reflection of the industry. It's a reflection of
Right.
the customer that you're talking to.
Right.
And price helps. You mentioned you lowered price and that can help, but
Right.
that is
It's a
one of
balance.
many levers. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a balance, right? Value, I forgot what the formula was, but, like, value is, if it's, like, the quality of the product plus the time, right? Or the
Yeah.
cost or whatever. So that's, like, really the driving factor of value. And, look, I'm gonna be completely honest and completely fair, right? I mean, because I've had conversations with the people too. My same $275 like BLS instructor course, it's not a hidden secret. if I were to charge, $500 or $600 for a
Yep.
BLS instructor, I would get less clients, but also I would get a different clientele. Um, and
Yep.
I would have a different motivated group probably. And so
Hmm.
it's about finding that balance of, okay, yes, like I've got to make money, right? But if I charge too little, all I'm doing is just probably, for lack of better words, dumbing down and cheapening the certification to be an instructor and setting
Yep.
people up for failure because they can't, if they couldn't afford perhaps 3, 4, or $500, instructor course, how are they going to be able to afford the mannequins and whatnot? And are they going to have the time? Are they going to be interested in this? And that's a fair point. So you have to, I think, for your market, in my experience anyway, you have to really pay attention to what your competitors are doing, and you have to be intentional, right? The price war is not a silhouette, right? It's not. There's no one perfect price, right? There's no one perfect customer base. If you have someone that goes to someone that just wants to get their CPR certification for $20, right, down the road, that's AHA in 20 minutes. Okay, it's not compliant, right? So hope nothing happens to your card. But also, I can't save that customer, right? Like I can't. There's nothing that I could have done which
What
could
are you
have
going to
brought
say
them
to
to
that
me
customer to convince them that they should stay for the 6 hours?
for the 6. Well, I hope my BLS class isn't really truly 6 hours, but
Well, yeah, yeah, but you know what I
yeah,
mean.
yeah, for like ACLS
They
or
weren't.
PALS or something. I get you.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, first off, my certifications will be compliant, right? And second off, right, I can pull on my experience as a medical student, right, former ER paramedic and paramedic and all these kinds of other things, and you know, um, I'll say, um, we give you a 5-star service, right? Like if you go on Google right now, you can find my training site and you can find that I have a 5-star rating, and I can always point to them and I can be like, look, we have a 5-star rating for a reason. So if you want to go somewhere else and take this certification and be sketched out by taking this in somebody's garage, be my guest. But we can offer you a premium experience.
Did you always have that mentality back when you were more passive about the business, or did that confidence come when you started to get more volume and you felt more comfortable turning people away? And there's no wrong answer. I'm just curious.
Yeah, and I think it's actually kind of a mixture of both. Because I mean, I have answers to all your questions probably because I think about this business a lot. I think, live, and breathe it. So that's why you get emails from me at like midnight. But it
It's
was
okay.
probably a bit both. You're not obligated to respond at midnight. um, You know, I did have confidence after a little while, but then in the beginning, I was also like, if you don't wanna take it from me and you wanna go to somewhere else,
Yep.
you're more than happy to, right?
Yep.
I am not I will go on the record, right, and say I'm not really a huge fan of hard code products. And people really like that quick and easy certification, especially like the hard code complete products. People love that, right? Just doing like a 30-minute skills check after you've
Yep.
never done a mega code, right?
Yep.
And now you're an ACLS provider. To me, it seems a little. I don't know. I won't speak publicly about it, but I think I've made my thoughts known about it to other people. Um, I think that matter perhaps on
I don't
subcommittees.
think that just because uh I actually think that is a good thing for providers to actually have a stance. We don't have to debate whether who is right or who is wrong. But if you I think you're going to be better off as a provider and as a business if you look at it and say, okay, the way that customers are going to get certified is segmenting into types of customers.
Hmm.
They are not all interchangeable.
Right.
If you have a
100%.
customer that's comfortable going to hard code complete, don't waste your breath trying to convince them that they should go to your instructor led class. Go find the customers who want instructor led.
Right.
I mean, sure,
And
you can always convince them, but what are you wasting? Like, I
that's also
and to
true vice
me,
versa, by the way. But yeah.
it's true, and that comes down to like just basic sales. And I think the reason I asked that question too, sorry, taking the mic back again, Logan. The reason I asked that question too, though, is sales is a numbers game. Not to say that everything is transactional, but it's a numbers game in that when you're not intentional and you're not going out and trying to talk or find your customers, you get into this scarcity mentality where you think everybody has to be your customer
Mhm,
and you have to sell them on what you're trying to do. And I
mhm,
think that if you build a brand and be intentional, like you're saying, and you know the customer that you're trying to serve, and you go talk to a lot of them, there are plenty of people out there who want what you offer, but you've got to
mhm,
be intentional and stop wasting your time. Like, I see people out there who spend more time lamenting about people who are going to people that cut corners or offer low prices, and just like, okay, fine. You're not going to stop the training center from cutting corners, and you're not going to stop the customer who's interested in the training center that cuts corners.
right.
Go find the customer who wants the product that you offer.
Right, and I think that you probably have mentioned this before too, right? And it's that the race to the bottom mentality is an issue for a lot of people, right? Because, I mean, if we were to get into a price war right now, right, and our customer only is concerned about the lowest possible price, there is nothing to keep them in my company and with my business if they're going to look for the lowest possible price. Because they'll just go to John once John has a lower price on an e-card, and then they'll
Why
move
am I
from John
selling
and
the cheap
Logan.
e cards?
Because you're not part of Heartbeat Heroes, that's why.
Okay,
Um,
okay, sorry. Yeah,
yeah.
discount John's cards. Okay.
Yeah, so they'll go to the next one, right? They'll find someone else that's cheaper, and they'll find someone else that's cheaper, right?
Yep.
And then it's like, okay, so how do you set yourself apart? And I told my instructors this, and I was very frank with them, right? I said, yes, we're actually having to increase the cards for e-cards by $1 across the board. But that's going to help sustain the ecosystem that we're creating, right? That's to help support and pay for, the infrastructure and your five-star quality service that you're getting, right? So, I was frank with them, and I told them that, and I mean, honestly, we're still a bit more competitive than all the other bigger, larger entrepreneurial centers, or not, excuse me, not entrepreneurial centers, but other training centers in our area that aren't entrepreneurial, right? They're healthcare systems and whatnot because they have these astronomical requirements and they're very boggy, and that's how they choose to run their training center. But instructors that I'm working with are like, we don't want that, right? We just want easy, an easy process. We'll pay the extra for your cards if we know that the
Yep.
process itself is not difficult. So, but
Yep.
yeah, to your point though, just really quickly, like, knowing your customer base and kind of going for those particular individuals. Um, yeah, I think that that's huge because we also tried recently to kind of switch, and we're like, okay, well, so if we could do a whole lot more hard code products, we could sell a whole lot more and it would be a whole lot less time investment. But the problem with that is that people sometimes just also don't like the hard code. They're like, I would just rather pay for the exclusive experience of 4 hours with you, Logan, and get a BLS card and be done with it
Yep.
on a Saturday. And some people don't know how to use email. And some people don't know. I mean, that's true. I know you giggle and I know you laugh, but that's one of the banes of my existence as well with people is I'm like, why would you sign up for an online class if you don't know how to use like tech? Yeah. And
Yeah.
and your
Yep.
instructions, John, from Hoven, I've gotten quite a bit of feedback here recently. So for the most part, I'd probably say like 90% of my clients that use the online stuff, they're like, oh yeah, the instructions are so easy. But there's a nice 10% that think that they, they have some choice words for you, John. And I was like, I'll send that to them. But
Give them my cell. Give them my cell. They can text me
no,
their feedback.
no, we'll give them your email and that'll be good enough. So, but anyway, enough about that. So,
Turns out, the instructions are such a tricky thing, and you see this on everyone's
mm-hmm,
website. It's like
mm-hmm,
I just think there's always going to be that 5%
mm-hmm,
that figure out a way to not understand it, which is okay, and you kind of
mm-hmm.
just got to prepare for it. Because the other trade off is that you do try and write for that 5%, and then the other 95% are like, "Why are you shouting at me?"
Right, and I try not to shout at people. I will put the phone on mute. I will throw my squishy balls that I just bought against the wall, and then I will have a
Now we
nice
know why you
smiling
have them.
face. I
Yep.
I have I have a whole box
Yep.
of 100 and some. But yeah, so, I get it, and it's frustrating, but it's like I think you said something a long time ago to me, and it was like, that's just, there's no no getting around that for some people and for some things, right? And I always tell students, I'm like, "Are you on a computer or on your phone? It sounds like you're using this on your phone." Like, "Oh, I'm on my phone." I'm like, "No, this is the best service that you can possibly get is gonna be on your computer." So that's
Oh, for the
helped a lot.
online learning portion? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so people are trying to do, like, the hard code on their iPad, and I'm like, "Yeah, because your iPad's not really optimized for that." So, there's only so
So,
much I can say.
um, coming up on the hour. So I appreciate all the time we spent, and thank you. Sound wonderful with the new microphone, by the way. So that's another
Oh,
strong business
thanks.
investment.
Thanks, yeah, it's my
I have
ASMR.
mine, but I should probably get off the headphones. Um, I will include a link. Is the best place for people to find you Instagram? We're gonna share that as the primary.
Yeah, sure. I don't, and I totally don't mind responding to questions on Instagram or whatever. I mean, I know it was kind of supposed to be a Q&A, so whatever. But you can email me too. That's fine. But Instagram at Nola Heartbeat, um, just all one word, Nola Nola Heartbeat. So
Yeah, I will do that. I tend to get more emails, but I always usually ping you through the Instagram account.
yeah, sure. I'd appreciate a follow
Keep
up.
me posted on the new. I want to see pictures of the office as everything gets rolled out.
Oh yeah,
Obviously,
I
bunch of
definitely
people share the
will.
space, so shoot me some photos.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have a cocktail reception to open it up, and I'll have plenty of champagne for everybody. So you'll be invited
I
if
still
you.
have not been to New Orleans, so I think I've been starting to put together bucket list of different classes that I want to attend. The one that I first gave a shout out to is Chris at Falcon
Mhm.
CPR because he does a and the pictures of his stop the bleed course look insane.
Yeah,
Um, so I'll have to stop by one of your classes the first time in New Orleans, but there better be cocktails. I'm not just doing just a
100%.
class.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
yeah, I don't really I don't know, after I've looked through the PAM and everything, I haven't found anything specifically that says you can't have a cocktail, right, during class. I'm just saying.
If
Maybe
they're
not the
frozen,
best,
you can call it
but
blended learning. Take that one to the bank.
I hope nobody from the AHA heard that, but, it's fine. Full disclaimer, I
We're
do not serve
kidding.
cocktails
We're
during
kidding.
class.
Yeah, we're kidding. We're kidding. We're kidding.
During Zoom on COVID, during COVID on Zoom, our professors it's funny, I had a late night philosophy class, and we were all drinking towards the end of that semester. Like, we would just flat out just had our wine glass. Even the professor had, like, a glass of Cabernet. By the end of a 3-hour session, we were zooted.
Was it a philosophy class?
It was a philosophy class.
There we go.
So
All right, makes sense. Makes sense. All right, Logan. Good to see you. Send me office
you as
pictures,
well.
and I'll see you when I make it out to your side of town.
Definitely will do.
All right. Bye, dude.
Alright. Bye. Adios.